I'm delighted to say I'm with Marc Almond.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm great, thank you. Well, cheers.
Very excited about the new album. I heard it for the first time today.
Oh, yes.
I was going to say, because obviously it's a cover version album, but I wouldn't want to say that to put anyone off. Obviously, they wouldn't because they know it's you.
There were two brand new songs on it as well.
But you've done it in a very different way because it's hugely orchestral.
It is. Well, you know, when the brief was to do an orchestral cover versions album, I signed a deal to BMG and for 2 albums. And they said, well, the first one we'd like to do is a cover versions album with an orchestra. So the usual thing we think, well, you go into a studio with an orchestra and record all these songs that everybody else records, you know, with like an orchestra and things like that. So I wanted to do something a bit different. I still wanted it to be a pop album. Yeah. So I got producer Mike Stevens, who produces Take That, Annie Lennox, ELO. He's a great MD and arranger. And I said, let's do a kind of a pop orchestral album of covers. And of course the decade I went back to for that was the 60s, because I was a kid in the 60s, growing up watching all the 60s TV shows. I had kind of young parents who had the radio on all the time, and I really tuned into a lot of those really odd 60s songs, you know. So I kind of thought, well, yeah, that great mix of orchestral and pop, the 60s. So I kind of had a big list of songs I wanted to do, and gradually, bit by bit, we just had to work the way through. Well, that fits with that, and that works really well, and that's how it all came together, really. So I wanted to do a cover versions orchestral album that was a little bit different.
And I love the fact there are songs on there that I hadn't heard before as well, because it's not the obvious choice of 60 songs. Yeah, it's obviously your favourites.
It's kind of, I like to pick songs that are kind of sort of known but not too well known, and that way I can kind of stamp my identity on them. So when I did like Pearly Spencer, Days of Pearly Spencer, for example, it's like it was known to an extent but not overly known. So therefore, when your fans hear it, they think that they can equate it with you straight away. It's not a song that millions of people have sung. I think the nearest to kind of a standard song on this album is probably The Shadow of Your Smile, which has been sung by quite a few people. But it's kind of, I wanted to stamp my own identity on it, but at the same time, from the originals, I didn't move that too far away because they've got these great arrangements on and they're so brilliant. So I just thought, well, I can bring the songs to my audience. My audience can hear me singing them, probably hear them for the first time. Other people who are older will know them from maybe some of the 60s. It will remind them about them. They might go back and listen to the originals as well. But it was kind of taking my fans on a bit of a musical journey with me through my record collection.
Yeah, and they're quite cinematic too. And I love that because it really did bring up a lot of images, like I say, even after know knowing the title of the album. Yeah. It took me on a journey without sounding corny.
No, it was meant to, because I wanted it to sound like a soundtrack to like some 60s Italian movie or something, like a theme on it. And I wrote this song called No One to Say Good Night To, one of the original songs. And it's very cinematic. And I imagine, when you drive through London, you see all these big sort of blocks of luxury apartments that are being built, and they go for like crazy prices, like, starting at like 5 million. I was thinking, who lives in these places? Who can afford these places? Penthouses for like 40 million. So I'm imagining myself as like this person living in this penthouse, looking out over the London skyline, and and I'm surrounded by art objects and sculptures and these beautiful stuff, but I've got no one to say goodnight to. I've got no one to love, no one to kind of, and my love's left me, because I'm so obsessed with all these things, So these were all the songs I'd be playing in my record collection as I'm looking out over the London skyline, thinking, why did I lose you? Where are you? Why does nobody love me anymore? I've got all this stuff around me. I'm so rich, but nobody loves me anymore. And that was the kind of theme I wanted to have going through the album, that would kind of feel that kind of feel.
It's terrific because you've always been the storyteller, and it's a really nice way to close the album because it makes you think about stuff, particularly with London, like you mentioned, the gentrification and the Soho that you used to write about with Soft Cell. It's just completely different now, isn't it?
I don't feel a connection with it anymore. But I suppose that's it. Everybody through the decades they've grown up, and when they come to London and they go to Soho, they have their own different Soho experiences. And I know there's this big thing, save Soho and bring it back, but I think it's a really kind of hard thing to do because it's always throughout the years changed. From I first lived in, so my first flat I bought in London was in Soho in Brewer Street, and it was quite a rough place then. It was really it really was the strip clubs and the hardcore cinemas,
the Siouxsie City, isn't it?
It really was then, and it was kind of very rough and kind of dangerous, kind of exciting, really exciting,
very edgy.
But and so I've seen it change over the years, and now it's become, well, like most things I suppose in London, become quite corporate, and you see the same shops on every street, the same shops, the same brands everywhere, sometimes facing each other other across the road.
Lost the sparkle.
Yeah, lost the sparkle.
Shame.
And I hope there's going to be some kind of revolution against that at some point, and people are going to get sick of that, and they're going to go back to have this whole revolution against all that kind of thing. And that often happens, I might not be around for that. But
I wanted to mention when I first started listening to you, it was back in 1981, and I was an 11-year-old child growing up, and obviously I knew I was gay, and I knew that I was different to everybody else. And I just wanted to mention that because I know we haven't got a lot of time.
Yeah.
But when I bought Non-Stop Erotic Cabaret, and I used to almost hide away in my room and listen to it in secret.
You were 11 then?
Again, and I was 11, and it took me on a journey, and I will never forget that and the feelings that it gave me, and you still give me those feelings now when I listen to you.
I think people sort of opened that door for people, maybe people in their way like David Bowie and Mark Bolan did when I was growing up in the early 70s. Yeah. Even though they weren't particularly gay artists, or they kind of had a gay imagery, and they kind of flirted with that, and that was amazing in that time, because you were looking for any sort of signals that might be kind of gay signals, and even if it was somebody that wasn't gay, and always was kind of just playing with those things, playing with those, it was still fantastic and amazing. It still opened that door for you. So it's great when I meet people who are really young, and I open that kind of door for them. It's great that you were 11 when you knew it, because I knew I was 11. I had my first boyfriend at 11, so it was kind of like your school friends together. So it was kind of you do. It's kind of you do. And at that time when I was growing up, even into my teens, it was hardly anything you could latch onto. It was always that sitting at home and watching things on the telly that made you blush. And that sweat running down your back because your parents are watching it.
The funny thing is, though, even listening to your music back then, I didn't understand a lot of it, but I was intrigued by it and excited. And it did terrify me, some of it. I mean, there was some dark stuff that you used to sing about. And obviously, you touch on that still now, but I just wanted to mention that because it really was quite pivotal for me.
That's kind of, I think that's kind of nice. I think the people that were alone in their bedrooms, and they were kind of listening to and listen. And I think that's a great thing that I like to think of that in my sort of way. I kind of helped kind of show people there was some other world out there.
Because I grew up listening to Siouxsie Sioux, who I know you're a fan of.
I did.
And you grew up with her.
Well, some people were really influenced by Siouxsie. Because when I was at art college, I listened to, it was the time of punk. It was 66, 77. And I went to see all the kind of punk bands and everything. But I liked Siouxsie best of all. And even you can hear things like on some of those early Soft Cell songs. I'm actually trying to sing a bit like Siouxsie. Because it was all trying to be a kind of punk then. And it was also this punk. So we didn't want to sing properly. We wanted to sing in this kind of punk way. So, and Siouxsie was like a huge influence, and she became a good friend of mine later on as well, which is like a weird thing. And even though I kind of know her, I'm kind of friends with her, I still can't help thinking of her as Siouxsie Sioux, and I feel a bit in awe. I'm kind of terrified of her, actually.
I remember the first time I interviewed her, she kind of terrified me, but I loved that because I wanted a challenge. We ended up talking about the weather and her cats. It was great. But I just wanted to ask you if you felt a pressure having that admiration for an artist such as Siouxsie and then working with her. Was there a pressure that you felt like you couldn't really commit to the project, or did it all go quite well?
Yeah, smoothly? I mean, when I worked with Siouxsie,
and Budgie for the
Budgie, I just felt a bit, it wasn't entirely successful, to tell you. I mean, I love the song, but I think I was too conscious of working with Siouxsie, and so I think when you work with someone like that, I was trying to write a song that was very Siouxsie, whereas I should have written a song that was more a bit less Siouxsie and brought something a bit different to it. But it was great working with the pair of them, was fantastic, and we sang that on stage together a few times as well. So it was great singing Threat of Love with her on stage.
I love that track.
And I come back to it now and listen to it, I thought, I really like it now. But at the time I think, I don't know, was it a bit Siouxsie by numbers or something, But I really love it now because I think it's a really great track, one of my favourite kind of duet moments that I've done.
It is a fantastic track. I read somewhere that you love the rock and roll aspect of playing live, because I know you're going to be taking this new album out on the tour.
It's not very rock and roll, this tour. It's like it's orchestras and the whole lot. So
exactly.
I can't be rock and roll, really.
But isn't that great, though, to be able to adapt a different style to a lot of your work, because you seem to do it as if it's just effortless. To go from, I'm not saying it's a deliberate thing, you're going from genre to genre, because obviously there's genres that you love and you're very passionate about, but how great to be able to switch from doing the orchestral thing and then doing
there's a lot of stress
that
goes into that effortless.
Is that great to take the idea on tour, though? It's quite ambitious, isn't it?
I'm kind of daunted because it's great to get a chance to work with an orchestra and band, and I don't often get a chance to tour with that situation. Maybe a one-off concert. I did concerts last year with the Leeds College of music students. We had a big orchestra of them on stage, which was great. But to go out on tour, and when they said, "Oh yeah, do you want to do a big tour, Major?" I said, "Oh yeah, put in that date, that day." I'm looking at it now, and it's 18 dates, and I've never done a tour that big, and it's a big sing.
Exhausting.
This tour, yeah, it is a big sing as well.
But you've been working what for 40 years. I'm sure
it is my 40th year in music.
Yeah.
But it was actually a bit longer than that because I was in a band when I was 16. I was singing in a band when I was 16, kind of like back in the 70, 75 or something like that. And 74, 75. We were singing kind of hits of the day and things like that in like local sort of pubs or local sort of clubs, discos or things like that.
Right.
So it's actually been in music for a bit even longer than that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well done to you. I can't wait to see the tour. I really love the album. I think it's a great album. It's such a great piece of work.
Thank you.
Mark, so fantastic to see
Nice
you.
to talk to you too.
With everything.
Oh, thank you.